Hello students and welcome back to our science videos and science lectures. Now our video today would be our last video for the first quarter since the weeks 7 and 8 is a related topic of photosynthesis and adaptation. So this video would already cover the 2 weeks of our discussion on our module 7 and module 8. So the main topic for our discussion today is about the photosynthesis and the respiration. So the main focus of our discussion is to differentiate the basic features and importance of photosynthesis and respiration. Since the two words are somewhat correlated, so we will discuss deeper understanding about. Okay, so let us start our discussion on photosynthesis and respiration using the figure given. So in our figure, we have there the sun, the tree, and the human. So let us identify the connection of these three in order for us to perform the photosynthesis and the respiration. So let us discuss the figure about photosynthesis and respiration. So our plants releases oxygen, and the release of oxygen by the plants is the byproduct of photosynthesis. Ibig sabihin, ang resulta ng photosynthesis ay nakakapag-release ng oxygen ang plants. When we say photosynthesis, it is the way wherein plants could manufacture their own food using the sunlight given by the sun. So, kaya nandyan si sun because it's the main source of the plants for them to survive and for them to undergo the process called photosynthesis. Now, this photosynthesis is happening within the plants, and this is the result of the release of oxygen. Now, this oxygen released by the plants is needed by the humans, specifically the cells of the human. Now, when the oxygen is in the cells of the human, then that is now what we call as cellular respiration. Now, the cellular respiration happening within the cells of the humans is enabling to generate the ATP or the energy. Its photosynthesis and respiration are biological reactions. Biological reactions that complement each other in a reverse manner. So, mean to say, baliktaran sila ng process. So, let us discuss about the process happening in the photosynthesis and respiration. So, we all know that plants do releases oxygen. So, alam naman natin from the discussion pa of respiratory system na ang humans ay kumukuha ng oxygen coming from the plants. So, alam natin na ang nagre-release ng oxygen ay ang plants. So, how does these plants able to release oxygen? So, yung plants natin were able to release oxygen through the process called photosynthesis. In the photosynthesis, the sunlight coming from the sun, our plants converts this light energy from the sun into chemical energy para magamit nila in the process called photosynthesis. So, kaya meron tayong sunlight in the figure, it is because the sunlight is their main source of energy for the plants as they do manufacture their own food. And the result of this photosynthesis is the release of oxygen. Kung kaya nakakapagbigay ng oxygen ang ating plants. And this oxygen is obviously needed by the humans. Para tayo naman humans ay makasurvive, kinukuha natin yung oxygen na nire-release ng plants. Now, this oxygen taken by the human body ay pumupunta sa mga cell. So, nakakapagpabuhay o nakakapagpa-generate sa mga cells natin sa katawan is through the use of the oxygen. And that is what we call as the cellular respiration. And this cellular respiration happening within the cells are the reason why we are able to generate energy. And this energy is called ATP or adenosine triphosphate. And this adenosine triphosphate or ATP is our what we call as energy. Let's have another figure. So So we have humans. Humans releases carbon dioxide. So obviously, alam naman natin, if we inhale oxygen, then we exhale the carbon dioxide. So yung in-exhale natin na carbon dioxide will be taken by the plants. So, kung kinuha natin yung oxygen sa plants, ibibigay naman natin sa plants is the carbon dioxide as a waste in our body. So, since hindi natin kailangan sa katawan ng carbon dioxide, then we gave off or we exhale it and the plants will take those carbon dioxide. So, yung kinuhang carbon dioxide ng plants natin is also used by the plants in order for them to perform the photosynthesis. So once that the photosynthesis happened in the plants, it is resulting to glucose. So ang resulta ng photosynthesis para sa plants is the glucose. Para makapag-produce sila ng glucose or sugar. On the other hand, the plants that gives off the oxygen taken by humans is the result of respiration. Kagaya nung in-explain natin kanina. So, photosynthesis is happening in the chloroplast. The energy needed in the photosynthesis is light energy from the sun. The materials needed in the photosynthesis are carbon dioxide and water. Then, the materials that we will produce in the photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen. On the other hand, respiration is happening in the mitochondria. The energy needed in the respiration is chemical energy. The materials needed in respiration are oxygen and glucose. And then the materials that we will able to produce in the respiration are carbon dioxide and water. So let us have a deeper understanding about the photosynthesis. This photosynthesis is a process. In this process, it is only used by the plants and some bacteria. So mean to say, ang gumagawa lamang ng photosynthesis, mainly plants, and there are some bacteria that also perform photosynthesis. Ano bang nangyayari sa photosynthesis? In the photosynthesis, our plants or some bacteria are creating energy that is mainly coming from the sunlight. So, gumagawa sila ng energy na kinukuha nila galing sa sunlight from the sun. And this energy is called light energy. Light means ilaw. Light galing sa sunlight. So, yung sunlight natin from the sun is their main source of energy to perform this photosynthesis. How do plants able to perform the photosynthesis? So, yung plants natin, meron silang part na tinatawag na chlorophyll, wherein chlorophyll is a green pigment in the plants that is responsible for the conversion process. In short, kaya nakakapag-perform ng photosynthesis ang plants natin, it is because they do have this chlorophyll to perform it. Let us have this equation for us to produce the photosynthesis. So sabi natin kanina, ang kinakailangan nating materials for us to perform the photosynthesis are the carbon dioxide and water. So we have carbon dioxide, which is CO2, and then we have H2O for the water. So, carbon dioxide plus water will give us or will yield us to the result of glucose and oxygen. So, glucose is C6H12O6 and oxygen is O2. Now, sa ating equation, kailangan balanse. Since makakakita tayo dyan ng number sa baba, mean to say, ganun kadami ang isang element. So, for example, on CO2. So, sa C, may nakikita tayong walang number. And then, oxygen, meron tayong 2 sa baba. Mean to say, we have only 1 carbon and 2 oxygen in the carbon dioxide. Kaya nga siya dioxide. Mean to say, we have 2 counts of oxygen in the carbon dioxide. Then, in the water, we have H2O, mean to say we have 2 counts of hydrogen and 1 oxygen in the water. Kailangan yung equation natin sa left is equivalent or balanced with the equation natin sa right. So, since in the right side, on the byproduct, glucose has 6 carbons, 12 hydrogen, and 6 oxygen. Then we have their oxygen of another 2 counts of oxygen. So, paano natin gagawin balancing? So, lalagyan natin ng number sa bawat unahan to make us a balanced equation. Photosynthesis. So, we have here the carbon dioxide, then we have here the water, then we have the glucose, and the oxygen. So, kailangan yung equation natin would always be balanced. Balance sa kaliwa at sa kanan. So, in our left side, we have carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and another oxygen. So, eto na rin yun. So, on the first part, we have 1 carbon, we have 2 oxygen, plus 1. May isa pa tayong oxygen dito. So, meron tayong 2 plus 1 is 3. And then, we have hydrogen of 2. So, this would be our left side. So, dun sa kanan naman natin, we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, yung carbon natin dito is 6. Hydrogen natin is 12. And then, oxygen natin is 6. And then, meron tayong oxygen na dalawa. So, we have 6 plus 2 is equals to 8. So, we have 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, and 8 oxygen. Obviously, hindi sila balanse. Masyadong mababa yung number natin sa kaliwa with the number natin sa kanan. So, kailangan mag-i-equal sila sa parehas na number. So, para maging balanse ang equation natin, lalagyan natin ng number dun sa base. So, kung dito, ang carbon natin is 6, kailangan 6 sila pareho. So, try natin lagyan dito ng 6. So, we have 6 times 1. Since may imaginary number 1 ka dyan, ang number 1 hindi na natin kailangan isulat because obviously, kapag wala siyang number dito sa baba, that's obviously may isang number ng carbon. So, we will multiply the number, the whole number dito sa unahan with sa subscript. So, 6 times 1, we now have 6 carbon. So, balanse na yung carbon natin. How about may karatig siyang oxygen? So, kung may 6 tayo dito at may 2 dito si oxygen, so we will multiply the whole number 6 with the subscript 2. So, 6 times 2 is equals to 12. So, yung oxygen natin dito magiging 12. Eh, yung oxygen natin sa kabila is 8. So, hindi pa rin balanse. But, we forget na meron pa tayong oxygen dito. So, kung may oxygen pa tayo dito, we have 6 times 2 is 12 plus, may isa tayo ditong oxygen, plus 1. So, magiging ang oxygen natin is 13. So, hindi pa rin balance with the oxygen on the other side. Punta muna tayo kay hydrogen. So, yung hydrogen natin dito is 12. And ang hydrogen natin dito is 2 lang. So, kulang pa tayo ng 10 to make it balance. So, anong pwede nating i-multiply sa 2 para magkaroon tayo ng 12 hydrogen? So, ang i-multiply natin dito is another 6. So, we have 6 times 2 is equals to 12. Now, our hydrogen is already balanced. Ano na lang ang problema natin? Ang problema na lang natin is si oxygen para maging balance siya sa oxygen sa kabila. But since nilagyan natin ng whole number yung equation natin dito sa water, so magkakaroon tayo ngayon ng 6 times 1. Since may number 1 tayo dito, imumultiply pa din natin siya kasi kasama siya sa equation ng H2O. Ngayon, 6 times 1 is 6. So, meron ka ditong 6 oxygen. Dito kanina, meron tayong 6 times 2 is equals to 6 times 2 is equals to 12. Then, nagkaroon tayo ng 6 dito. So, alisin natin to. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 1 is 6. So, magkakaroon tayo ng 12 plus 6. 12 plus 6 is equals to 18. Lalong lumaki ngayon. So, paano natin gagawing balanse yung oxygen dito sa kabila? So, since meron tayo ditong nagsosolong oxygen, huwag na natin gagalawin yung equation ng glucose. Kasi, pag ginalaw natin to, magagalaw pa yung number ng carbon at ng hydrogen. Where in fact, balance na yung hydrogen at carbon natin on the other equation. So, ang gagalawin natin is yung oxygen natin na nakahiwalay, which is O2. So, kung may O2 tayo dito, meron tayong 2, meron tayo dito 6. So, natin kakalimutan na may 6 kang oxygen dito. So, ano ang pwede nating i-multiply sa 2 para maka-produce tayo ng 18 oxygen? So, kung meron na tayo ditong 6, ang pang kailangan natin is 12. So, para makapag-produce tayo ng 12, lalagyan natin ng whole number dito na 6. We have 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 6 na oxygen dito sa kabila, we now have 18 oxygen. So, we now have a balanced equation. So, ang mangyayari ngayon, our equation for photosynthesis will be 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water will yield. When we say yield, makakapag-produce or will have a product of glucose plus 6 oxygen. So that is now the equation for the photosynthesis. We now have a balanced equation for the photosynthesis. Yung equation natin, doon natin pinapakita yung mga materials na kailangan natin, na kagaya ng carbon dioxide at ng water, para makapag-produce tayo ng photosynthesis, which is glucose and oxygen. In the photosynthesis, we have 2 stages. Stage 1 will be the light-dependent reaction, and stage 2 will be the light-independent reaction, or on other term, we call it as Calvin cycle. Okay, so let us discuss the 2 stages of photosynthesis. Sabi natin kanina, photosynthesis is happening within the chloroplast. These chloroplasts are found in the plant cell. So, ito yung chloroplast natin. Inside the chloroplast, makakakita tayo ng ganitong klaseng figure. So, this figure is just to represent the stages 1 and 2 of photosynthesis. So, let us focus first on stage 1. On stage 1, it is called light-dependent reaction. On the light-dependent reaction, it is happening on this side. So, itong side natin na to, it is where the stage 1 of photosynthesis happens. Stage 1 is called light-dependent reaction. In the light-dependent reaction, it is specifically happens, or the location is in this one. Itong may parang patong-patong na disc. We call this as thylakoid. In the thylakoid part of chloroplast, it is where the light-dependent reaction is happening or takes place. In the light-dependent reaction, kaya meron tayo ditong sunlight because the light-dependent reaction is using the sunlight of coming from the sun. So, gumagamit ang light-dependent reaction ng sunlight galing sa araw. And this light-dependent, kaya nga light-dependent, ibig sabihin nakadepende sila sa sunlight. Yung sunlight natin enables to produce the NADPH and the ATP. So, that would be our first stage. So, yung first stage natin ay hanggang sa production ng NADPH at ng ATP. So, for the stage 1 or the light-dependent reaction, from the word light-dependent, they depends the reaction from the sunlight, coming from the sun. So, yung energy na naibigay ng sun, which is solar energy, the stage 1 in the light-dependent, they are converting the solar energy coming from the sun into chemical energy. Now, the conversion of the solar energy into chemical energy makes up the NADPH and the ATP. Our ATP, or the adenosine triphosphate, is our energy currency, meaning it's our main source of energy. It's the main source of energy for the plants. Yung nagbibigay enerhiya sa plants. That's ATP. Then, the NADPH, which is called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, it is the electron carrier. Siya yung may dala-dala ng electrons. Now, this two is the result of the stage 1. At the end of the stage 1, they should able to produce or make an ATP and NADPH. Now, after that they have produced the two, the NADPH and the ATP, gagamitin yun para gumalaw ang ating stage 2. So this side will be our stage 2. Our stage 2 is called light independent reaction. Or in other words, it is called Calvin cycle. Bakit siya tinawag na Calvin cycle? Kasi para daw cyclic yung kanyang reaction. Kitang-kita naman natin with our illustration na siya ay paikot. Sabihin cyclical, paikot yung process. Kaya sa ibang term, ang tawag sa kanya is Calvin cycle. Now, in our stage 2, in the light independent, it do not need sunlight. Hindi niya kailangan ng sunlight. Meaning to say, stage 2 can be happened either daytime or nighttime. Pwedeng mangyari ang stage 2 kahit gabi o araw kasi hindi niya kailangan ng sunlight. Unlike sa stage 1 na kailangan niya ng sunlight, mean to say, stage 1 only happens during daytime kapag merong sun. But stage 2, ang ipinagkaiba niya, hindi niya kailangan ng sunlight. Ang kailangan lang ng stage 2 ay yung ipinroduce ng stage 1 na ATP at NADPH. So, gagamitin niya si ATP at si NADPH in the process of stage 2. For the stage 2 or light independent, when we say independent na kapag iisa, mean to say, hindi niya kinakailangan ng light. Kaya nga, pwede siya sa gabi, pwede siya sa araw. Now, in the light independent stage or the Calvin cycle on stage 2, it converts CO2 or carbon dioxide. It converts carbon dioxide to make glucose para makapag-produce ng glucose. So, in the stage 2, the purpose is to produce the glucose, which is the byproduct of photosynthesis. So, para makapag-produce ng glucose ang photosynthesis, ginagawa yun in stage number 2, in the process of converting carbon dioxide to make glucose. Now, in stage 2, it takes place, nangyayari ang stage 2 in stroma. So, in the stroma part, it is where the stage 2 happens. Kung ang stage 1 ay dito sa mga patong-patong na to, which is thylakoid, yung stage 2 naman natin ay nangyayari ay sa stroma. And in stage 2, it forms glucose, or in other words, carbohydrates. So, in stage 2 or light independent reaction, at the end of the process, at the end of the cyclic process, it should be able to make Ga3P. Kung sa stage 1 natin, ang kailangan nilang ma-produce at the end is NADPH and ATP. sa stage 2, ang kailangan nilang ma-produce at the end is the GA3P or the glucose or carbohydrates. Okay, so this would be the summary of our discussion on photosynthesis. The photosynthesis is happening in the chloroplast. So, ito yung chloroplast natin. So, dun siya nangyayari sa chloroplast ng plants. Now, photosynthesis is happening through the process of creating energy, mainly coming from the sun. So, the sun is much needed in the photosynthesis process. Kasi dun nanggagaling yung energy na kinakailangan to perform stage 1 and stage 2 of photosynthesis. The stage 1 happening on this part is called the light-dependent reaction, which is mainly depending on the sunlight from the sun. Wherein, in the light-dependent, it converts solar energy into chemical energy. And stage 1 is happening in the thylakoid, itong patong-patong na disc, in the thylakoid, and at the end makes NADPH, which is the electron current, and the ATP, which is the main source of energy. So, yung resulta ng stage 1 natin na NADPH and ATP is used in stage number 2. In stage number 2, which is called Calvin cycle or light-dependent reaction, which do not need sunlight, and it may happen even daytime or nighttime. In the Calvin cycle, it converts carbon dioxide into glucose, and at the end of the process, photosynthesis will produce glucose or carbohydrates. Since in our equation, ang byproduct natin o ang product o produkto ng ating photosynthesis is mainly to make glucose. Okay, so let us now discuss about the respiration. So yung respiration, which is already discussed in the respiratory system, in the respiration, it's the process of taking in air into the lungs, and then from the lungs, it will go with the flow with our blood in order to deliver the oxygen taken in by the body into the different cells of the body. And once that the oxygen reaches the cell, then we have now the cellular respiration. In the cellular respiration, it may be two kinds of respiration. It could be aerobically or anaerobically. When we say aerobically, it is using oxygen, while anaerobically, it is without the use of oxygen. Cellular respiration, it is where the glucose, which is C6H12O6, react with oxygen. So when glucose and oxygen react with each other, it will yield to a product or byproduct of carbon dioxide and water. So this is somewhat familiar with the equation. So ito yung equation natin when it comes to respiration. So kung mapapansin nyo, kabaliktaran lang siya ng process ng photosynthesis. Kasi sabi natin kanina, photosynthesis and respiration is a biological reaction that happens in a reverse manner. Sabihin, baliktaran lang yung process na nangyayari with the respiration and the photosynthesis. Now, in the respiration, babaliktarin lang natin yung posisyon nung nasa kaliwa at nasa kanan. So, mangyayari ngayon, yung material na kailangan natin will be glucose and oxygen, at yung magiging resulta natin is carbon dioxide and water. Now, sa pagbabalanse, it is the same thing as the balancing of the photosynthesis. So, hindi natin kailangan isa-isahin kasi kaparehas lang din naman. So, mangyayari, this would be 6, this would also be 6, and this also will be 6. So, kaparehas lang din ang equation. The difference is, nabaliktad lang yung position ng materials needed with the product. So, this would be our equation for the respiration. Plus, energy or ATP. Yun lang. Ang nadagdag natin sa dulo when it comes to respiration, since binigyan natin ng oxygen ang cell, yung oxygen natin nakarating sa cells ng katawan, yung cells natin, once na nabigyan natin ng oxygen, will have ATP. And ATP, again, is our main source of energy. Okay. Isang discussion na naman na nakalipas sa ating video discussing about photosynthesis and respiration. So you just always take note that photosynthesis is happening within the plants using the light coming from the sun. And respiration is the giving of oxygen that would be needed by the cells of the body to generate ATP or energy. So, kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng energy sa ating buong katawan is because of the oxygen that we take in from the plants na nirelease ng plants. And plants do need the sunlight of the sun to create their energy or to manufacture their own food. So, I do hope that you already now understand about the relationship or the connection of the basic features of the photosynthesis and the respiration. And this would be our last video for the first quarter. And I really do enjoy making these various videos for our discussion every week to help you understand and answer your modules in science. And I will use this opportunity to thank all the 108 subscribers as of now. I do have 108 subscribers that I only created last October 5 when we started the classes in science. So it's just more than a month. October, November. More than a month, mga isang buwan at isang linggo. I'm thankful for having 108 subscribers as of now. Baka madagdagan pa. And I'm also thankful for 100 views of my videos and sharing to you my idea and knowledge on our topic. And the main purpose of these videos are just to help you to understand our lessons since we are in a distance learning and we cannot teach you all one by one. And this is the only way that I guess that may help you in your modules. Okay, thank you very much for always listening, watching, and viewing my videos in science lesson. And I hope again to see you all for the next quarter on the second quarter of our discussion in science. So again, this would be now the last video for the first quarter and hopes to make more videos in science to help you learn. For watching, don't forget to subscribe if you are not yet still subscribed in my channel for you to be updated always with the videos of science class.